Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Carmel, and in today's video we are talking about covering up dark circles and preventing your concealer from creasing. It's absolutely no secret around here that I've always struggled with my under eyes. I have dark under eyes, I have hollowing under eyes, I have thinning and veiny under eyes. And I've tried many things over the years to try and minimize those issues. And I've definitely got to a point in my life at 42 where I'm accepting my under eyes for what they are. But that doesn't mean that I don't keep trying different techniques and watching incredible makeup artists. So I've definitely picked up a few more tips and tricks over the last few months, and some I would really like to share with you today. So if that sounds like something that you might be interested in, then please do keep on watching. So my most popular video on this channel is actually my video where I try and advise you on how to cover up dark circles and hollowing under eyes. Now there's a reason why that video is so popular, and that's because so many of us suffer with different under eye issues. So today we are going to be using some of the techniques from that video, but some that are completely different. Now I want to say a couple of things before we get started, and the first thing is very important. You really need to have super realistic expectations for your under eyes. We are not going to be working miracles, and we are not going to be erasing your under eye problems. Honestly, I wish I could guarantee that that would happen, but it's just not. We need to be realistic about what we are going to achieve. And I think that when we get a new concealer, and I spoke about this with somebody in one of my recent videos, the fact that when we get a new concealer and it makes all these claims, we expect it to work miracles. And that's why I don't feel like brands should push the crease-free, absolutely perfect concealers, because there's absolutely no such thing as a completely crease-free concealer. If you have fine lines under your eyes, which you do, every human being has fine lines under their eyes, especially under their lash line. If you have lines there and you put a product over it, there's a chance, and a high chance, that that product is going to sit into those lines. So we need to make that settling as minimal as we possibly can. And that is down to, obviously, product choice, but it's mainly down to technique. And the second thing that is really important, and I know I bang on about this all the time and you are so sick of hearing about it, but if you do not prep your under eyes before you pop a product onto it, forget it. You're not going to get any kind of decent result. So I have dry under eyes, right? Really dry under eyes and very thin skin. So I make sure that I go in with a hydrating toner or a hydrating essence, but I always go in with an eye serum. You don't really have to go in with an eye serum, but I guess with eye products, a lot of them have been especially formulated for the sensitive skin under your eyes. I use this one from Beauty Pie. This is the Beauty Pie Triple Hyaluronic Acid Serum, and this is just really lightweight. It sinks into the skin really quickly, helps to plump and hydrate the under eyes all day. I always try and encourage you to use a serum under the eyes because serums are so much more lightweight than a moisturizer, and they penetrate really fast and really deep, and they're usually full of active ingredients such as hyaluronic acid, caffeine, which help your under eyes throughout the day. Sometimes a cream can feel like you've over prepped your under eyes, and over prepping is just as bad as under prepping. So if you've got a heavy moisturizer under your eyes, it's not going to work well with the concealer. The key to getting a really good result that we're happy with, one that is going to cover the majority of our darkness and that is going to prevent our concealer from creasing, is the technique. Now, I have absolutely studied makeup artists over the years, and I have discovered an incredible makeup artist recently, and his name is Aditya Madiraju. Oh, he is amazing. I discovered him over on Instagram, and listen, I don't use Instagram really. I use it to look at makeup releases, and watch funny cat videos. That's all I use Instagram for. And one day he popped up on my feed and I was literally hooked. So we are going to be following one of his techniques for concealer application today, which when I watched it, I thought, there's no way that's going to work on my 42-year-old under eyes. Now, although we are going to be following Addy's technique, I have definitely changed a few bits up. I think it's really important that when you are following a technique from somebody that you feel comfortable enough to make tweaks to that, because every single under eye is different. So what works for me isn't going to necessarily work for you. And obviously what works for Addy isn't necessarily going to work on my under eyes. But obviously I will link Addy's socials in the description box below. Please check him out. If anything, he is so hilarious and entertaining. He's a joy. Go and check him out. In my original video on concealing under eyes and under eye hollows, I mentioned in that video that I don't like to use colour correctors, and that's simply because I'd always followed the advice that a concealer should do the job of a colour corrector, and in some circumstances I think that's really, really right and true. But I have been dipping into colour correctors in recent months and I've had quite a lot of success with it. Now, we are going to be colour correcting, and that is the first step of Addy's technique. So when we talk about colour correcting, if you look at the colour wheel, you need to look at the colour wheel and then look at your under eyes and see which colours you are seeing. And generally under your eyes you will see blues, you will see purples. I can see predominantly blue, so if you look at the opposite end of blue, you are going to see orange, you're going to see peaches. So the idea is that if you use an orange or a peach over on that blue under your eyes, that will cancel out the blue. So the orange, the peach will cancel out the blue. Oh, and I have nothing else on my face today apart from brows and balm. Okay, so no makeup, and I'm not even going to complete my makeup today because I want to just focus on these under eyes. Addy says to go in with an orange colour corrector. Huda Beauty do a really good colour corrector. So do Bobbi Brown. Elf do a really good putty corrector. There are so many colour correctors out there that you can go for. Now, here's the thing. With colour correctors, they're supposed to neutralise that darkness straight away, and then really a concealer is supposed to just be an addition to that colour correcting. So the colour corrector is supposed to do the majority of the job, but colour correctors are usually quite lightweight, and sometimes I find that they don't give me a full neutralising of that darkness. So I was watching a video by Anele the other day. Now, if you don't know who Anele is, she's absolutely incredible, and again, looks like such a beautiful human being too, and I just love learning from her. So I saw her talking about under eyes and different concealers the other day, and she had actually used in her video, instead of using a specific colour corrector, she used a concealer basically as a colour corrector and then went in with a brightener over the top. Now, we're not going to be using a brightener over the top, but I am going to use a concealer to colour correct. Now, I know that some people are going to be shouting at the screen now saying, hey, concealers are a different consistency. Why are you using concealer to colour correct? Well, why? Because I've tried it and it has definitely given me the best outcome with all of the trials that I've been doing for weeks now. You can go in with a colour corrector if you have one now. If you've got a colour corrector that really, really does neutralise that darkness, stick with it. For me, I'm going to go in with a concealer that is peachy. So this is going to give me neutralising of the darkness, but it's also going to give me some coverage, but we are only using a tiny amount. So I'm going in with my Haus Labs. This is the Triclone Skin Tech Concealer, and this is in the shade Light Medium Peach, and it is genuinely perfect for neutralising my darkness. And I know some of you will be thinking, well, why don't you just use that under your eyes completely? And I will use this under my whole eye, but it doesn't give me the brightening that I want. So that's why I'm going to use this and another concealer together. Now, instead of using concealer brushes, I'm going to use some eyeshadow brushes, just because today I want it all to be about a really precise application. This is the Angie Hot and Flashy A501 by BK Beauty. You might be able to see that it's just perfect to use in my hollow areas and in my dark areas. So this bit really does come from Anele's advice. So she says, don't use the colour corrector along your whole eye. pinpoint where the actual darkness is and only put the colour corrector there, nowhere else. And that just makes so much sense. Now going back to Addy's advice, and he is very strict about this. He says that if you just go in straight on the face, then just unfollow him now. He would absolutely hate watching my channel because I always go in on my face. But he says, always go in on the back of your hand first. And do you know what? We all know that that's the right thing to do. I'm just lazy. So that's the shade 20 Light Medium Peach. And you can see like it's not too peachy, but peachy enough. So I'm taking this eyeshadow brush and I'm just dipping into it on the back of my hand. And we'll focus on this eye because this is my worst. And all we're going to do is tap it into where I have that real darkness, where the hollow is. Can you see how it's just neutralized it kind of immediately? And we're just going to tap it there. Then I'm just moving out a bit and I'm just putting some here. So much better already, isn't it? And I'm going to bring some on the inner corner. Because I've loads of darkness there. Now, I do have some veins at the side here. I always try to be really, really careful over this side because this is where your face moves. So where you get your main kind of source of wrinkles here. So I tend to be really conservative when it comes to this area, but I have a lot of veins there. So we'll just cover those up. And this peachy shade of this concealer just does such a great job at neutralizing the darkness. So we'll go ahead and we'll do the other eye. Okay, so that is both eyes just after the colour corrector. And now we are going to move on to stage 2, which is Addy's stage 2, which is probably going to freak you out because guess what? It definitely freaked me out and I did not think it would work at all. So step 2 is setting the colour corrector. I know it sounds crazy, doesn't it? But honestly, trust me when I say that you need to just trust the process. We are going to take a loose translucent powder. And I have bought a new one recently because I've been trying to find a replacement for my Givenchy. And I purchased the small size of this. This is the Makeup Forever HD Perfecting Loose Powder. Now, this is an extremely finely milled loose powder, way more finely milled than, for example, the Huda Beauty, than the Givenchy, and this works well with the Huda Beauty. However, the one thing I'll say about the Huda Beauty is it gives you quite a bit of coverage. I don't want coverage from the powder that I'm setting this with, so just pick something that is loose, that is translucent, that isn't going to give you a ton of coverage under your eyes because that's just going to give you too much in this area that we don't need. Now, Addy says to use a brush for this bit. I think he might use this one from BK Beauty, the 113. I can't remember which one it is, but it's a little bit fluffy like this. So it's a medium-sized fluffy brush. So this is where I've made a tweak to suit me and my preferences. I'm going in with a much smaller brush. So it's this one from Real Techniques, and this is the Expert Concealer brush, but I'm going to use it for powder. So he says to dip into the powder. So then he says to take the brush and to just roll it on the back of your hand to disperse that powder. And then you are going to set the under eye where you've placed the colour corrector. So I'm pretty sure Addy placed it underneath the eye, the whole eye. Obviously, we have strategically placed the colour corrector just with the little bit of powder that's on here, and it really is a small amount. I'm going to tap where I placed the colour corrector and literally just tap. small amount to set the colour corrector. And if you're wondering why we are setting the colour corrector, so Adi's theory is that if you set the colour corrector before you put concealer over it, it will prevent the colour corrector from moving. It will prevent the colour corrector from mixing in with the concealer, which will inevitably change the colour of it, which does make complete sense when you think about it. Obviously, my worry was always, oh my gosh, this is way too much product under my 42-year-old eyes, but it definitely works. So again, just tapping in. And this is another important point to make, is with the colour corrector, with the powder, with the concealer, please don't bring it underneath your lash line. If you look under your lash line here, we all have wrinkles there. Not wrinkles, they're fine lines. It's completely normal. But if you put concealer all the way up to your lash line, you are going to get settling into those lines. And no matter what I do, I always get settling into these little lines here. I don't care. I'm a human being. I have under eye lines. So if I'm putting product near them, it's going to sit into them. Obviously, with this technique, it's going to be minimal, but it is going to happen whether you like it or not. We do not have filters in real life, unfortunately. Or fortunately. I mean, what's wrong with having lines? Honestly, it's just normal. So we are going to go in with concealer now, and it might surprise you to find that the concealer that I've chosen to use today is this one by Huda Beauty. This is the FauxFilter concealer. I used to love this, and then I found that it just sat into all of my under eye wrinkles, my lines. So in order to put this technique to the test, I went back to this concealer because I thought to myself, if it works with this concealer on my under eyes, then it works. So that's why I'm using this today. So I actually have two shades. Let me just show you the shades first before we go in. So the dark one is Cookie Dough and the light one is Coconut Flakes. Now, in order to get my perfect shade, which is going to be as close to my skin tone as possible, I am going to mix these two shades. Obviously, it's ideal if you just have a concealer that is close to your skin tone or that is one shade lighter. Now I'm going to mix them, apply them. However, if like me, you suffer with under eye hollows, it is beneficial to have a lighter concealer around, because then I am going to go in with the lightest shade, Coconut Flakes, in my under eye hollow. So I'm going to show you that in a minute, but let's get on with the concealing. I am going to use another eyeshadow brush for this. So this is the BK Beauty 205. So there's the shape of it. You can see that it's slightly slanted and dense and slim. Perfect for this area. So remember what we said. Do not be bringing this concealer under your lash line. You don't need it there. Put some eyeshadow there if you really, really want to. Addy, again, don't annoy him by going straight in on your face with the actual dough foot. You got to mix it into the brush on your hand. He does use a different brush to me. Again, this is my little tweak to his technique. And I'm going in very carefully. I'm not using a ton of product. Really minimal amount. Less is more. I know people get really annoyed when people say that all the time, but it's so true. And we're going to just follow the natural hollow of our eye, because that's generally where we get our most darkness. And we're just going to follow it around, avoiding this area. I mean, inevitably, concealer is going to make its way up there a little bit, but it's not going to be heavy. Obviously, if you are the same skin tone as me and you want these concealers, you don't have to buy two concealers to get the right shade. Just buy whichever is in between. All right, so that looks really, really good, and I would be happy with that, absolutely. But I know there are people out there that are going to be worried about their under eye hollows, and my big dip is right here. So before we go into this eye, I'm going to show you how I brighten up that little hollow. So I'm going to take the lightest shade of this, which is Coconut Flakes, on the back of my hand. I'm going to use the same brush, but I'm going to wipe it off on a microfiber cloth. That's a great tip if you want to just clean off your brushes in between products. Use a microfiber cloth. It's so good. And can you see where I have this dip here? So if you want to brighten up that dip, you can't go in with the whole lighter shade all over here because it's just going to brighten up that whole area. The whole point is when something dips in, it's darker than the rest. So if you put a lighter shade in there, it's going to give the illusion of bringing it forward. So if we dip into the lighter shade, and all we're going to do is concentrate in that dip. Only that dip. I'm not bringing it anywhere else under my eye because I don't have a full dip anywhere else. And it's just a contour, that's all it is. But I know that a lot of people really, really suffer with that and don't know how to conceal it. And we're not using loads of product. We're using such a minimal amount. Remember, it's all about technique. So there you go. Absolutely not perfect, but we've done a really, really good job there. Okay, let's do the other eye, the normal concealer, and just bring it under. I'm also going to take a little bit of that lighter shade, Coconut Flakes, and I'm just going to bring it into the inner corner in both eyes. So what do you think so far? I think we've done an amazing job at covering everything. We don't have any cakiness or settling. However, there is going to be some sitting into some lines. So I don't know about you, but I definitely have a couple of prominent under eye lines, and I know that concealer is going to slightly settle into them, not much, but slightly. So this is very important when it comes to the next stage. So Addy says, right, leave your under eyes alone, go and have a coffee, go and fight with your husband, and then we're going to come back and do the next stage. So it's been about 10 minutes, and in that time I would usually go and do the rest of my makeup, but I really don't want to distract from the under eyes today, so I don't want to go off and do the rest of my makeup. In terms of how would I apply my foundation now, I would literally always do my under eyes before my foundation. That's just how I do my makeup, and I would do my under eyes, and when I'm applying the foundation, I would blend up towards the top of my cheekbones. You will not be taking your foundation, your tint, whatever you put on your actual complexion. You will not be bringing it under your eyes. I would never advocate for putting foundation under your eyes because it's just too much product under there. You don't need it. That's what your corrector or just your concealer is for. So the next part is really, really interesting. So Addy suggests that you take a Q-tip, also known as a cotton bud, over this side of the world, or you can take a really slim eyeshadow brush. So I've been using just a winged liner brush. This is from MAC. Basically, Addy now says to go in and look at your under eyes now that it's been a good few minutes and you've moved your face around and you've seen where you've got the most settling into lines. And he says that now you need to go in and remove that excess product. Here is, I have a pretty big wrinkle there. So I'm going to go in with my Q-tip actually, and you can get pointy Q-tips, can't you? Which are probably better for this. And you're going to remove that excess product from that area and over here as well. And then we are going to take a clean concealer brush. This is just my normal BK Beauty A506. And then I'm going to tap out the area that I've just messed with. Now you don't have to do that bit if you don't want to. So we are going to go back in with the same powder. So Addy goes in with a brush and then he does go in with a puff. I'm not going to go in with a puff or a big brush. I'm going to go in with my brush from before. I like to be very precise as to where I apply my powder. So we are only using a tiny amount again. So we're swirling into the powder and we're just going to diffuse it on the hand like Addy says to do. I only need powder where I really have the hollows. You can put powder underneath your whole eye if you like. I don't like doing that. I like to do it in my problematic areas, and for me it's where I have a dip, where I have a contour. So that's what I'm going to do. You decide where you want to place the powder. If you've got a bigger kind of contour or hollow than what I do, then place it into that hollow. Don't bring the powder along your lash line, because it's just going to look powdery and it's going to look dry. Pushing it in. Let's just have a look at a before and an after now of my under eyes. And the biggest question that I know I'm going to get asked is, okay, so it looks good now, but is it going to look good in 10, 12 hours? So I'm going to insert some footage now of when I have used this technique and how it actually looks outside in the daylight and after a full day of wear. This footage that you're seeing here was after 10 hours of wear, and it looks the same as when I applied it. Yes, if you zoom in there, I've got a little bit of settling on under the lash line. But oh my gosh, that is normal. I will say this till I'm absolutely blue in the face. If you have lines, it's going to sit into lines. Having lines, it means that you're a human being. When we say that we are going to have no creasing, it means that your under eyes are not going to look like a massive creasy mess. It doesn't mean that we are erasing all of your problems and your wrinkles and your under eye darkness and everything else. It means that we're minimizing it. So honestly, stop being so hard on yourself. It's okay to have a few little wrinkles or big wrinkles, who cares? As long as it doesn't look dry and crusty, which looking at my under eyes there, I don't think it does. But remember, you absolutely have to prep your under eyes. You can't do this on dry under eyes. You have to hydrate them. You have to use a really bare minimal amount of product. I used barely any colour corrector. I used a tiny dot of concealer. You don't need to be caking it under. Be super strategic about where you place your product. I never thought in a million years that using powder over my corrector would work, but it does. Is it perfect? No. Can you still see some of my darkness? Yeah, I'm not perfect. My face isn't perfect. I'm not going to look like a filter walking around. And that's okay. So definitely do let me know in the comments if you try this and if you have any success with it. I would love to hear all about your experiences. So please go and check out Addy's page. Go and check out Alex and Anele, both incredible makeup artists. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I so appreciate you being here with me. I'm really looking forward to seeing you in the next video. But until then, take care and bye for now.